Greetings from Madrid, Spain. Welcome back to my channel, guys. This is the final stop of my trip throughout Europe this summer. After this, it's back to Miami for me in a few days. Of course, I had to tell you about my time here in Madrid and what my experience is like. Apologies for the lackluster background. This is my hotel room. I realize that it's quite barren, but this is the best spot for me in terms of lighting. So right before this, I was in Barcelona, Spain. And the two cities could not be more different. While Madrid is noticeably cleaner, more polished as a city, which makes sense because it's the capital of Spain. So, with capitals, it's the same thing with Washington, D.C. in the United States. Oftentimes the state capital is more presentable than other cities because it's the representation of the country, both domestically, but also on an international level, on a global level. So Madrid is noticeably cleaner and more polished than Barcelona, but I would say that what Madrid makes up for in terms of cleanliness and presentation, and it's also safer than Barcelona, it actually loses in distinct flavor and identity and charisma. In my opinion, Barcelona is a much more interesting city than Madrid. As I mentioned in that video, if you haven't seen it, Barcelona for me is eerie, but in a cool way. There's a mystique to Barcelona. It's in the architecture, it's in the people, it's in the vibe. Coming straight from Barcelona, Madrid honestly feels kind of sterile to me. Madrid for me feels like a very commercial city. It feels like it was built with tourists in mind, with commerce in mind. There's a huge avenue called Gran Via that crosses through the city. You can't really miss it. Like if you're trying to get to the north side of the city or the south side, you have to cross it. It's filled with shops and chain stores, big hotels. But I personally feel kind of uninspired here. It's hard to explain because on the surface, it's like a city that has everything that you need to have in a city, but it just is missing a flavor for me. I'm not inspired or charmed by Madrid. Madrid is just not my kind of city, but I think there are a lot of people who appreciate a city like Madrid. If you're really into shopping, for example, if restaurant choices are a big thing for you, there's a lot of museums here. For that kind of tourism, it's a great place. But if you're like me, where you prefer to just explore on your own and get lost down, a charming street and be inspired by the nature around you, I wouldn't say that Madrid is for you. Now, to talk about the gay travel part of things, Madrid is very gay friendly. Barcelona, I would say, was also very gay friendly, but Madrid might be on an even bigger level. Somebody commented on my Barcelona video saying that Spain is one of the most gay-friendly European countries, and based on my experience here, that seems to be accurate. There's a gay neighborhood here called Chueca. Hope I'm saying that right. Once you're there, you can't miss the fact that it's a gay neighborhood. You, of course, see a lot of gay men walking around. You see rainbow flags. You see a ton of gay bars and gay-friendly establishments. But even outside of that neighborhood, you see rainbow flags throughout the city. You see little indications of a gay-friendly or gay-tolerant place. I was in another neighborhood and I stumbled upon this garage door. To see things like this even outside of a gay neighborhood, I think says a lot about the progressiveness of a city. And you don't always see this throughout Europe. Even more modern places in Europe are not necessarily that demonstrative of gay friendliness. It's interesting how oftentimes people parallel the city that they're in. Like, people will often look like how the city looks, if that makes sense. And Madrid is no exception. So where Barcelona has this mystique and this edginess, I feel like the guys there in Barcelona also had that. Like, a lot of the guys were just unique looking, more artistic or creative or bohemian looking. Here, I find that the guys are more cookie cutter looking. Just like the city itself, I just don't find the guys here that appealing in terms of being unique or distinct. I was way more riveted, we'll say, by the guys in Barcelona. One final thing I want to mention about the people here in general, even beyond gay guys, just the people that you interact with at restaurants and bars and stuff like that. I feel that in Barcelona, people were friendlier to me. Again, Barcelona is more of a tourist hub, so it could just be that it's, places that have more of a hospitality or tourism vibe are maybe going to be more inviting or more welcoming of tourists who are helping to stimulate the local economy. It's all in the details, right? Interacting with people working at my hotel, ordering food at a restaurant, at a coffee shop, I've noticed a little bit of a difference in Madrid versus Barcelona. I feel like in Barcelona, people were just friendlier. People felt more genuine. And here I have felt sometimes like people can't be bothered. For example, because I don't speak Spanish, even if I try to speak Spanish, right, I'm clearly a foreigner here and it's palpable. In Barcelona, I felt like people in customer service roles were more eager to try to like meet halfway and communicate. There's been situations here where, it's like a loss in translation. Like they don't speak English, I don't speak Spanish. So my natural instinct when that happens is just to speak more slowly, use minimal words in English, try to use Spanish words if I know some of them related to what I'm trying to say, use hand gestures, right? Body language, like you try to go into universal language territory. And I found that consistently, people here in customer service roles, whether they're at the cash register, whether they're, it's a restaurant or a coffee shop or a bar, there's like what feels like a resistance to try to adapt and understand the customer without necessarily speaking English, but like they'll just keep speaking Spanish very quickly as if they're talking to a local without using hand gestures or again, trying to like communicate in a visual way. And so for me, that's very unusual because this is the capital of Spain. I would think there's a more modern sense of how to interact with international tourists and customers. Like I would expect that from a small town in Spain or like a village, but not from the capital city, especially considering how tourism oriented Barcelona was. Like in Barcelona, sometimes I would try to communicate what I wanted in Spanish, even with the minimal Spanish that I know. And I would be met with responses in English, even though I was not even trying to speak English. Again, to clarify, it's not about whether somebody speaks English or not. It's more for me about the willingness to understand the other party and try to like meet halfway. If you have context on this, I'm very curious. Is this like a pride thing because it is the capital? Is it just kind of like a different culture in this region of the country? Sometimes you travel to a place where you don't dislike the place. It's just that you feel like you saw it and there's no reason to return. That's how I feel about Madrid. Like I would never recommend for somebody to come all the way to Madrid, let's say from the US, just to come here. I don't think it carries enough charisma and uniqueness to be an individual trip. But if you're planning a trip to Spain and you want to hit multiple stops, including Madrid, then I would say it's worth it. Otherwise, I would say Spain has other places to explore that are more compelling, such as Barcelona. Let me know in the comments your thoughts. If you've been here, if you want to come here, catch you next time.